We have two big trades, Sean, that happened yesterday. Davante Adams is being traded to the New York Jets. Shocker. Third-round pick that can become a second-rounder if Davante Adams becomes a first or second team All-Pro this season. Don't know if that's going to come to fruition because he's already missed a couple of games. I do appreciate, Sean, that Davante Adams is suddenly now listed as like he's going to play for the Jets this upcoming week. He also was just rapidly materialized in New York the minute that the trade was announced. Some people were saying that he and Aaron Rodgers shared a bed that night. That is to be determined. Not in that way. I'm just saying that some people were saying
they had a sleepover.
Yeah, they had a sleepover. They're probably cuddling. Maybe not. This trade, though, your thoughts on what it means for the Jets?
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm seeing a lot of the fat James Harden to thin James Harden for Davante Adams, and the magical hamstring is back and it's working operationally. The Jets are a mess. They are a absolute mess on offense. I don't know if Davante Adams truly solves their whole issues, because that's just another Green Bay Packers piece for a Green Bay Packers quarterback to complement another Green Bay Packers piece in Allen Lazard. So we're getting Packers East. Cool. But what happens to the guys that you tried to build around? What happens to Breece Hall's workload? He should get more work. What happens to Braylon Allen's workload? He should get more work. Is Garrett Wilson going to have less targets? I'm sure he's going to be okay with that. It seems like a bit of a cluster for the Jets, but if they rip off 4 straight wins, I'll look like a fool. At this current moment, though, it is not the most impactful wide receiver trade that took place this week, in my opinion.
Really? You don't think that you thought that the Amari Cooper trade was
much more significant? The Bills are a legit contender. The Jets are still playing catch-up ball, and they will be for the rest of the season until they get it figured out.
That I don't disagree with. I don't think that the Jets, this suddenly thrust them into a Super Bowl contention conversation. Frankly, I don't think that they're there. Their defense has not played up to the desired hope of them being an elite top 5 defense. They've been pretty average across the board. They're just not dominating and winning games defensively as they possibly could. And maybe that's because they've had a bit of a tough schedule. But I do think that Davante Adams is going to have much bigger production than Amari Cooper. I think that this offense immediately gets a big boost, albeit Aaron Rodgers has not exactly looked like the Aaron Rodgers that we knew him to be, because he's a million years old at this point, and he's like so fragile and decrepit the way that he moves. But having a guy that he can trust, and I mean, he threw a little shade at Mike Williams after the game.
That was rough.
Yeah. There's now a connection with the guy that he has established chemistry with, and more importantly, Davante Adams feels better having somebody he has established chemistry with. I think that their production offensively is going to go up. I just think that this makes them a wild card team, and that's going to be the most of it. If anything, I would argue this is more impactful because without that extra receiving piece, they were floating in the ambiguous region of missing the playoffs to now being in the driver's seat to be one of the top wildcard teams.
I think they're officially in the hunt. I'll give them that. And I'm happy for Davante Adams. He's a very likable player. He does a lot of the right things. He's a phenomenal wide receiver. Last time that him and Rodgers were playing together, he had 123 catches, 1,500 yards, and 11 touchdowns. That was in 2021. He gets shipped on over to Las Vegas after that to go play with his buddy Derek Carr. Yeah, bad decision. Raiders are bad. The Packers are a good team, and the Jets are a bad team also. They're just historically terrible. I don't think he pulls them out of the gutter, but if he gives, I'd say, half of that production that he had in 2021, ends up with 60-something some odd catches, 700, 800 yards, and 5-6 touchdowns, that's a win of a trade. You're not going to get that second-round pick. He's not going to be a first- or second-team wide receiver, but he is an impact maker, and I am very happy that he is not having to catch balls from Gardner Minshew or Aiden O'Connell anymore.
I'm very happy for my fantasy team too, because now I have a legitimate receiver, not one that's catching balls from.
That's smart, drafting Raiders players. That's always the key.
Well, half of my picks were auto picked because I was we were in the middle of doing a show, so it was kind of outside of my control. Amari Cooper, though, as you mentioned, was the other trade that happened this week that completely bolsters the Bills receiving room. That Mac Hollins was getting a little bit too much playing time. This is Amari Cooper gets traded around, moved around a ton. This is significant for the Bills that they needed just a little bit of extra juice. We know that Josh Allen is prolific. We know that he's a guy that's going to elevate the receivers around him. We see that with some of the departures outside of Stephon Diggs, guys that have left to go elsewhere, and the production hasn't exactly shown up. But bringing in Amari Cooper, I think that he automatically establishes himself as the number one receiver in this offense. And I think just naturally it's going to elevate the performances of some of the other young guys like Keon Coleman, to step up and find themselves being more open throughout this remaining stretch of the season. So to your point, I agree that this is huge. They go from being not just the leader of and the clear-cut favorite to win the AFC East, but now being a potential first overall seed in the playoffs and getting the bye.
The Josh Allen underrated discourse can get very toxic online, but this year specifically, and if we look deeper into both these trades, you can notice why I would make that point. Adams is coming into an offense that had Garrett Wilson, Tyler Conklin, Mike Williams, Breece Hall, and Braylon Allen, and a revamped offensive line. Josh Allen's been throwing to Khalil Shakir, Curtis Samuel, rookie Keon Coleman, and 2 tight ends in Dalton Kincaid and Dawson Knox.
Not good.
And Mac Hollins, the barefoot bandit. Okay, and I like Mac Hollins. He's jacked. He's a handsome wide receiver. All the good things that you can say about a wide receiver. He's not Amari Cooper. And Amari Cooper is on the same path of underratedness. It's his 3rd time he's been traded. He's 30. He gets 1,000 yards a year. He gets 8 touchdowns a year. He is an awesome wide receiver, and he was buried this season in Cleveland. What a step up for him as a wide receiver, and what a step up from the Bills' offense. And now you don't have to have a rookie wide receiver shoulder the load of being the big 3rd and 10 guy that you might have to look for. You still have 2 Kincaid. I understand the ups and downs in the fantasy stuff. He's still a young tight end. And Buffalo has a legitimate running game with James Cook when he's healthy. I know he didn't play, but Davis stepped in last week and was phenomenal. So they really have legit pieces on this offense to be great. And the fact that Josh Allen kept them afloat after the team said, hey, we just can't keep this core together anymore. The nucleus has officially eroded, and we're going to have to start, working some pieces in and out. Amari Cooper, way to be worked in. I expect a huge season for him for the rest of the year.
Amari Cooper kind of fits in that Brandon Cooks category of a guy who just like quietly, not always in the spotlight, never is always top 5 at the position, but just churns away 1,000-yard seasons. And that's the type of production that you need in your offense. Somebody that is a reliable go-to guy that like on 3rd down that that you can go to convert. That's what they were missing. They were able to win and have a strong start to the season, but it felt like whenever it came to crunch time against these bigger opponents, not having that go-to player like Amari Cooper was going to hurt them down the line. I kind of forgot, though, how long he was at Cleveland. I don't know why I thought he was only there for
the Cowboys should be so embarrassed that they let him walk. Last year, with Deshaun Watson, DTR, and Joe Flacco. Well,
then they traded him. They didn't let him walk. They traded him.
Yes, right? For a bag of chips. Cooper had 1,250 yards, career high, 5 touchdowns, and 72 catches with 3 bum-ass quarterbacks. I'm sorry, I'm not projecting to DTR. He's a young quarterback. I like him as a quarterback, but if we're putting it into the relative sense, he goes into that category until he proves not so. Now he's got Josh Allen. It's good. He could put up 72 catches, 1,250 yards, and 5 touchdowns through the rest of the season when he's had a bag of wet hair trying to throw him the ball all season so far. This says so much about Cleveland. They're already packing it in. They're trading for parts. It's over for them, which is a bummer because you're wasting another year of Myles Garrett. You're wasting another year of JOK. You're wasting another year of all those defensive backs that you paid and that are really, really solid. And now they're done for this season. If I was Nick Chubb, I'd just say, you know what, fellas, I'm going to take another couple months off. I'm going to really rehab it, and I'm just going to chill. I'm not coming back to this garbage fire. Give me a legit team next year.